Welcome back to another episode of Picking Up the Pixels, RPG Love. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me, as always, is Musum.
Hello.
Quick plug here for patreon.com/E1M1. Those ones are numbers. Support us financially. The $5 a month tier is a recommended one. Gets you all the early access, behind-the-scenes, exclusive, uncensored, cool audio stuff over there at patreon.com/E1M1. Musum, what have you been playing this past month?
So, I've only been playing 3 games,
Okay.
and they are all 3 of them are not games I should be playing side by side.
Okay.
I make my own decisions in life. So,
That's right.
I had a friend like Gate 3 so much, he decided he was going to buy it for me for my birthday, even though my birthday's in November.
Okay.
So I've started Baldur's Gate 3.
Okay.
I'm not super far into it. I'm maybe I don't know, a dozen hours. Playing on PS5,
Okay.
which works really well, by the way. It's this game has a learning curve. With all the critical praise it gotten, there are a few things I didn't quite realize that I feel like I should warn people about.
Okay.
It is, I'm sure everyone's heard by now. It's straight up D&D 5e rules, but
Okay.
I need to stress that people who don't know D&D 5e rules are going to be at a disadvantage playing this game.
Oh, okay. Is it something that you can learn by playing the game and kind of learn through the tutorials, or is it going to be kind of a steeper curve than that?
I suspect it's going to be quite a bit steeper than that. The
Okay.
game, it explains some stuff like initiative, or not initiative rolls, but skill checks
Mm.
and things like that. But there's just a lot of miscellany that you may glaze over. And if I was a better host, I would have kept a nice list of here's some things you should know. But I'll give you
Right.
some. It's some things that kind of tripped me up at the beginning. So the oh gosh, well, okay. So this isn't necessarily directly related to 5e, but I guess in a way it is. So they do lots of skill checks where you'll be in a conversation or looking at something, and it'll roll a digital 20-sided dice.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are your different characters are going to have different bonuses to different skills. So, I think on screen right now, I can't quite tell what's happening, but that guy looks wounded. So if you're trying to heal someone, then you're going to want someone who, like a cleric would have a wisdom skill, which they're going to base a lot of their rolls on for healing.
And can you say oh, I don't have wisdom, party member 2, get on in here and try and do this?
You can't do it on the fly. You got to do
Oh,
it
okay.
before.
Oh, okay.
There's I get all the arguments for save scumming now with this game.
Oh, for sure.
Which I guess I'm coming out the gate with a lot of little kind of minor criticisms. But I'm gonna get to it. I genuinely really enjoy this game.
Mm-hmm.
But the gosh, so in a really good paper and pencil environment, if you have a dungeon master, and they have you do some sort of skill check that is going to allow you access to somewhere. If they're a really good storyteller, something interesting is going to happen even if you fail that skill check.
Oh, sure.
That is not the case for this game. Generally, before kind of any conversation or any new area, you should just make a hard save.
Right.
Is my advice. And then go in, and in a lot of areas I think you're fine to just let the chips fall where they may, but occasionally you're going to run into something where it's well, that's really annoying that was just that one skill check. I'm going to reload and then switch over to, I don't know, my thief or someone like that who has a higher charisma stat or something else.
Right, because it's not like a 10-hour game. So it's not a sort of thing where it's I'll see that on my next playthrough, no big deal. It's no, I'm going to be in this for multiple tens of hours for my quote-unquote first playthrough. So
Yeah.
Yeah, like
And I
save
don't,
scumming up.
I, I have no idea either how much the story kind of changes depending on your decisions, but it very
Mm,
much feels like the way they've constructed the game. Like I'm not even out of the first area because there's so much to do in the first area, and it is kind of fun figuring some of the stuff out.
right.
Um, and most of the areas are just kind of their own little confined puzzle that is not going to affect the story later.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
there are there's seemingly like a major story decision at the end of this whole first area with the Druid's Cove, but I have not progressed that much.
Oh, okay.
Which I guess brings me to my next thing. Like you start the game and they're like, you have this thing in your brain that's gonna kill you. Hurry and solve it. And the game doesn't care about time.
Sure.
Like I'm all like rushing for like healers and this and that, and I am getting my butt kicked because I just am
Mm,
not doing enough side stuff.
right.
The the other thing the game doesn't tell you is there's like I want to say 5 characters you can get in the immediate first area around the crashed ship.
Okay.
Um, and they are several of them are very easy to miss. Like
Mm,
game's map is done in such a way that if you don't kind of go towards every little piece of fog of war on it, um, you may actually miss a trail that doesn't look like it should be there, but is there.
oh,
Um,
okay.
so so right now on screen they're showing the Owlbear Cave quest, which is one I just did.
Hmm.
Like I'll kind of break this one down because it's simple and mostly non-spoilery. You go in this cave. There's an owlbear and her cub and an egg, um, and you can use animal handling to calm the owlbear down, and the owlbear will let you explore the cave. And then there's like a shrine in another part of the cave that has a locked chest, and there's a puzzle you can solve for that shrine.
Mm,
And the puzzle requires you to kind of jump over to some places that may not be readily apparent. Um, but then the other part is if you get too close to the egg, the owlbear will attack, and then you'll have to kill the owlbear and the cub.
okay.
Um, if you do that, then you can get the egg, and you can sell the egg for a lot of money, or you can not do that, and then allegedly the owlbear cub will show up at the camp later, and you can kind of recruit it as a camp pet.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
which seems kind of fun. I looked up how much you get for the egg, and it didn't seem like that much. So like
Mm,
my last save, I accidentally triggered the owl bear after I'd solved everything and just killed them both. I'm like, well, that's that. And then saved and went to bed and talked to my friend. He's like, oh, you could have gone up for a pet of the thing. And I'm like, well, okay, let me see what I can do with this egg.
right.
And there are a couple things you can do with the egg, and I'm not familiar with the quest you can do it in, but it seems like a fairly negative outcome if you use it. So
Mm,
I'm just gonna save the money for it. But a lot of this stuff is like that, where it's mostly just you have this little connected dungeon area, and that kind of takes care of that. There does seem to be like some things where if you do this on the map, it'll affect these characters on the map, but
oh, okay.
um, I'm not super deep into it. The one of the things on D&D, it's coming back to me. I'll apologize to the audience now. I am incredibly tired today and groggy, so my brain is going to be all over the place on this subject.
Too much Baldur's Gate.
One of the things the game doesn't tell you is every D&D class you choose has a I always want to call it a subclass, but it's not true. A subclass is something different in the game. But basically, you unlock like a specialty version of the class at level 3, and
Oh,
they're
okay.
basically verbatim from the 5e handbook.
Mm,
So, like, I rolled up a monk, and at level 3, you can choose between oh, I forget what they're called. One of them's Way of the Fist. One of them is like you get a bunch of elemental attacks, and then one of them is kind of more assassin thief oriented, which is
mm,
the one I did. Um, Luckily, they are nicer than like your average D&D game, and you can evidently reset that stuff in camp
Oh,
if you
nice.
want. Thankfully, which I think will be a boon because you don't know how effective something is going to be or not be.
Well, the problem with those is always you kind of don't know what you don't know with all of those. Where it's like, I think this specialty sounds okay, and then you get a couple skills into it, and you're like, oh, this sucks. Like this, I don't.
Yeah,
This isn't my
yeah.
playstyle. Oh man.
I would advise also against not rolling up a ranger because the 5e ranger is pretty boring and underpowered compared to a lot of the classes.
Okay.
I know some like having the pet that attacks in combat is great. I'm not sure how it works in this game. I just, the last game of 5e, I was a ranger and I was, alongside a thief. Thieves are incredibly overpowered in 5e, in my opinion.
Mm.
But they can do like at least three things around.
Jeez.
Uh, and I can't remember. One of the other characters was like a dwarf fighter that had, I want to say an eldritch fighter. Um, and I can't remember. Oh, and the other one was like a paladin. But basically, like I could shoot an arrow, or I could do like a dual wield attack, and then I had my pet crab, which I
Jeez.
doubt. I doubt the game will let you choose a pet crab. That was like a D&D improved thing, or a
Right.
DM improved thing. But in general, like you're gonna want a. Sorry, my dog is cracking me up. You're gonna want the thief because the thief is gonna be your lockpick and your disarm traps character,
Oh,
and
sure.
again they get to do like 50 things in a battle. So like
Right.
in a battle you have your action and then you have your bonus action, and thieves
Mm.
get like 2 bonus actions, which is huge. Um, so so you want a thief, I guess is my main point there, and I know
Right.
the thief character in the game, judging from the internet, seems a little divisive, but I think he's kind of funny.
Mm.
Um, Asterion, I think is his name.
Okay.
But
I've heard that name on the internet. So.
yeah, the mage you probably want just because mages are insanely powerful. Like unless
Mm.
you roll up a mage and then you're fine, who cares? But you want someone
Right.
who can cast magic missile, which is one of the more powerful mage spells. But and then I don't. I thought a cleric would be necessary, but I'm not so sure that it is. But
Yeah, you
and
almost
also,
expect by default. It's like, yeah, I need a healer. Sure. Why
yeah,
wouldn't I?
and I don't because time doesn't matter, and you can just take short and long rests. When you feel like it, like it kind of negates it because you just go into most battles prepared, and then you sleep and
Oh,
and
okay.
heal and move on. So,
Right.
um, but I think the two necessary components, like main takeaways, you're gonna need some form of thief, and you probably just want to do the specialization as thief.
Mm-hmm.
The others may sound neat, but the specialization as thief, I think, will get you more out of it. And
Right.
because thieves it takes nothing for them to be hidden and be able to use a sneak attack and get insane critical damage. Like it's going to be one of your big damage dealers.
Right.
The man. So one of the other weird things about the game that I'm still trying to figure out the significance of is like most furniture objects in the game are selectable and examinable, and
Okay.
like you can just randomly move it. Like I was in this one, I don't know what she was. She was some monster witch lady, but she had a mirror where she cursed a spirit into it, and I found I could move the mirror around the room, and
Huh.
I don't I don't know if that's significant and if I could use that against something else, but there's a lot of solutions that the game does not point out to you that it's gonna let you do. Like,
Oh, okay.
oh hey, there's this big rock up here, like you can easily make the rock fall down the cliff and kill the guys or open the path or open the door or
Oh,
something. Like
gotcha. So one of those things
there's
like maybe you can pick up a chair and throw it at someone if you're the right class or something.
yeah. Well, and that would be under probably improvised weapon,
Oh,
which
gotcha.
I think a lot of. some classes specialize with stuff like that, but there's just lots of weird, like, little ins and outs like that.
Right.
I think I have to put my dog outside.
Yeah, sure. We'll take a quick break.
Okay. Okay. So kind of final thoughts on Baldur's Gates. Man, here's another weird D&D trope: is druids are usually giant jerks. So it appears to be true in this game too.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why D&D likes making druids jerks, but they just seem to. But it's the game is super high end. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it. And I think if you have access to a D&D 5e manual, you should just keep that by your side while you're rolling up your character and figuring things out. Don't roll up a ranger.
Right.
And, there's a lot of... So the race I chose was a dragonborn. So I'm just like a dragon person.
Mm-hmm.
And I get like an elemental lightning attack I can use once per day. So there's a lot of like cool varieties in some of the classes you roll up. They don't have I don't remember what they're called, but they have like robot people now in D&D, and I don't think they're in the game.
Okay.
Or at least they're not a selectable race. But anyway, it's a super cool game. So next up, I've been playing Starfield 2. I was pretty harsh to that game last episode, and I will say all those criticisms still stand, but I'm enjoying my time now.
Yeah, I've played a bunch of it this month too, and I feel like I'm in the exact same spot too, where it's like I have a kind of seemingly never-ending list of complaints about this game, but largely I'm still enjoying playing it, I think.
Yeah. It's it took my friend Justin coming over and showing me some things about the game, because I was kind of showing him what I was doing, and he's like, yeah, don't manually mine things. That part of the game sucks. It's like, well, they really impressed me at the beginning of the game that I should be mining things.
You're a miner. That's what you do.
Yeah. And then another thing that helped a lot, because the UI is, in particular, the menu system of the UI is horrific. Is the worst one since probably Morrowind.
It's just the whole thing is just like I now that I'm more than 30 hours into the game, I muscle memory kind of know where everything is, but it took a really long time to get my head around that kind of radial system that the main menu has. That menu is fine once you get into it. I still really struggle with the kind of item list menu. I feel like there's too much info and not enough info at the same time. It's very odd.
Yeah, I wish you could set the default filtering on the item menu.
Yes.
Because I always want it to be on type to have one of each weapon type of thing.
Yep.
But so my biggest pain point originally was the star map and telling my guy where to go. And evidently, you just select a quest, and then on most screens, you can go to your detective vision and just click on the icon in the distance and fast travel to the icon, and then once you're in your ship, you do the same thing again and you're there, and it lets you avoid the whole menu.
Most of the time when I'm on a quest chain, I'm just going into the quest menu, picking that quest, just hitting X on the controller, and it just says, oh, you want to fast travel here? And I hold X, and it just fast travels me onto the planet that I needed to go to in whatever solar system it's at. So, it's pretty wild that the game, it's like a good and a bad thing. The game really doesn't want you to spend so much time walking around, walking back to your ship and stuff. But I feel no impetus to explore at all, because I can just fast travel. Why should I have to wander around and check stuff out when I can just fast travel right back over there?
I mean, you're not going to have any. It's not Skyrim where you're going to stumble across something. I don't. Maybe you will stumble across something cool, but I don't know how they'd. I don't know how they'd expect a player to do that. Like, it's a very, in terms of just randomly exploring things, like it's very boring. Like,
Yeah,
you
like
you
there's no
have to have a
reason.
quest.
Yeah, and like the only time I run across random events are really when I'm flying to a planet and I'm kind of waiting to get scanned. There'll always be somebody hailing me out of nowhere. It's like, oh, okay, I'll
Yeah,
talk to you real quick, and that's about it. But there's nothing. There's really no reason to explore the surface of a planet because there's
yeah,
99% of the time there's just nothing there, which is fine. But there's however many hundreds of planets out there, and there's no reason to go visit any of them, really.
yeah. No, it's a giant waste of time.
Yeah,
It's just so. I've accepted it that Bethesda just doesn't care about immersion anymore.
yeah,
It's just a hard thing for me to mentally grasp.
right. Because
It
that was
is.
the stuff that felt so good in Fallout and Elder Scrolls stuff. Of you kind of, I'm here at this point. I'm gonna go do this next quest, however many hundreds of meters over that way. I'm gonna kind of like ping pong cool stuff on the way there. Of, oh, here's a cool cave, and oh, and I'm gonna fight these, spiders over by this creek, and I'm gonna go do this thing. Oh, there's a town I ran across, and stuff like that. And there's just none of that in this game. It's just fast traveling from one thing to another.
Yeah. Man, I'll tell you one thing that is still a pain in the butt is remembering what system a city is in.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't have a freaking quest in that city, that is just a like finding the one outpost I made is always a challenge.
Yeah, I haven't even made an outpost because I'm still on my first playthrough, and finding out that you can't bring literally any of your items or equipment or anything into your future playthroughs. I was like, well, I'm done like picking up anything in this game. You get to bring over your your skills that you've unlocked and one other thing that I don't remember. Um,
So
yeah.
I didn't know that. Well, in the way that's disheartening, but in another way, like I did the Freestar Rangers class quest line,
Hmm.
which I thought was fairly excellent. I was no spoilers. The ending was a little disappointing.
Right.
Well, gosh, I want to openly talk about it, but I can't. Like
I, I,
I'm
I,
fine with.
fin- I finished that quest too, and I like the reward. It's not a spoiler, but you get a really good ship at the end of the Rangers one, which is probably. I wasn't a super big fan of that one compared to. I'm doing the last one now, which is the Crimson Fleet, the pirate one. That's the last one I'm doing right now. That one is probably the worst out of all of the four of them, personally. Um, but the Rangers one was pretty okay. I wasn't. How do I talk about the ending? I
I think
I Go ahead.
I was about to say. I think I can say this, and it won't be considered a spoiler.
Sure.
The the way the Rangers missions are structured is you're meeting a new like. There's I guess only 12 Rangers or something like that in the system, which
Right.
sounds insane. And you're kind of each of the first few quests are introducing you to them. I really wanted a shootout with the entire Rangers at the end, like,
Yeah, that would have been cool.
and they didn't do that. And I assume it's just because they're using such old tech for this game.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
to
and
be blunt.
when I did the first two quests I did were the UC Vanguard one, which I actually really liked the ending of that one quite a bit. Um, and then the second one I did was there's four factions. It's the Rangers, UC Vanguard, Crimson Fleet, and then the last one that I don't remember. Um, I remember liking that one quite a bit too. My big bummer about the Rangers is the way the story eventually wraps up has you dealing with a group in the storyline that I kind of don't care about. And they're like, oh, it's, make sure you treat these people or this group correctly because they're important. It's like, yeah, cool. I don't that's I don't think that's nearly as interesting as some of the other things you're dealing with, like larger scale concerns that you're dealing with on some of the other quest lines. So.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. It just doesn't seem like there's a ton of quest lines to follow. Like I've really enjoyed a lot of the neon stuff.
Yeah, that's a very cool city too. Like
Yeah,
it's very distinctly different from a lot of the other stuff.
yeah. And gosh, what is that? There's some corporation in that town, and my friend swears this
Oh,
quest line's really good.
Ryujin. That's the
Ryujin.
fourth one. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that quest line a lot because it's like corporate espionage
Yeah.
kind of quest line. I had a lot of fun with that one.
Okay, that's good. I'm 3 or 4 into it, and I'll get to why. Like I've kind of shelved everything for the moment in favor of my third game, but we'll finish talking about this.
Sure.
Um, yeah, I'm 3 or 4 into that, and really kind of enjoying it. My friend was telling me it had like some kind of Deus Ex tone or something to it.
There's an infiltration mission later on that relies pretty heavily on stealth. That feels more like it's probably the closest it gets to something like Deus Ex, like an immersive sin sort of thing. It's clumsy because it's kind of the Bethesda engine thing, so it's not as graceful or stealthy. It also doesn't remind you like, hey, take off your giant 30-kilogram spacesuit before you try and go stealthing through stuff, because otherwise you're stomping around like an elephant, which caused me some problems. But it's cool. It's a cool quest line. I like how it starts, where it's like, hey man, do you want a desk job? Let's go do this. And it's like, what? I gotta do this quest because that sounds wild.
Yeah. I love how you have like a gossip guy at the front counter. You can just check in with what's the latest gossip, man.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I love that aspect of it. And like I've been maxing out my persuasion anyway.
Yep.
So I've done real well on that line so far. I wish there was a little bit more kind of outcomes permission that you could kind of, like,
Yeah.
hey, I took a different route on this and caused this to happen instead of verbatim this result.
Yeah, and when they do that in some of these quests, some quests will go in and say like, hey man, don't kill anybody on this mission. And sometimes things happen in these quests where you're like, oh, this whole room is empty. Turn a corner and there's a guard there and you got to start blasting people. But then when you get to the end of the mission, they're like, well, I'm going to have to dock your pay. It's like, well, doing it perfectly got me 3,000 credits and doing it imperfectly got me 2,000, and they yelled at me. I have like 1,000,000 credits at this point. None of this really matters at all.
Yeah.
So like,
It's
not very impactful.
It's funny. One of my friends was like, "Oh yeah, before you pick up this armor, like it rolls random, so save it before you pick it up." And I'm like, I'm enjoying this game. I don't enjoy this game enough to save scumming. Like whatever happens,
Like,
happens.
I'm not in that deep.
Uh,
Yeah.
and like the idea that there's so little faction quests in the game, like it's kind of
Right.
mind blowing to me. But it's also like, I guess I got to get to the new game plus to really find out. But it doesn't seem like there's a lot of interesting replay value to me.
No, because like there's 5 main quest lines. It looks like the 4 factions, and then the kind of the main quest line, like the one that you start the game with, and then that one splinters off into like find all the artifacts at some point. And from what I'm seeing from people online saying that on future playthroughs, the more times you roll over New Game Plus, the better quality gear that drops. And
Eh,
that sounds good on paper, but what am I going to do with that? Like,
yeah,
I like it that there's no level scaling in this, but that kind of means that if you do a bunch of side missions, you're kind of blasting through pretty much everything within the first couple of hours. So I'm not sure that that matters that much. And I'm glad it's in there because if you're someone that just wants to live in Starfield, it sounds like you can just roll New Game Plus, 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 plus forever. Um,
yeah.
and
I
that's
guess
great.
like in a Skyrim situation, I think that would make more sense to me.
Oh, yeah.
Just the way especially with me, because I play that game like nearly every year,
Yeah.
multiple times a year, and I will just roll up a character and be like, well, this character's never gonna learn anything with any weapons and only do magic, and we'll see
Right.
how that goes. And that is a high appeal to me, but like
Right.
they have a ridiculous amount of quests in Skyrim, and I just don't see that being the case here,
Yeah.
like um so I'm gonna move on to the third game. Do you
Okay.
have any final thoughts you want to say on Starfield?
I like Starfield. Like, I'm having fun with it, even though I went into it having fairly low expectations because I didn't really like Fallout 4. And I like Skyrim is great, but I never like clicked with it as much as other people did. Excuse me. I'm having fun with Starfield. I'm like enjoying it enough to see it to the end. Like I'm gonna finish the Crimson Fleet quest line. That'll be all 4 faction quest lines, and then I'll just power through the rest of the story and kind of finish it. But I don't really see myself starting New Game Plus. I don't see myself completing any more of the side quests or really doing much more exploration because it just doesn't feel like that matters at all. And
Yeah.
that's kind of a bummer for a game that is pretty fun and it has some fun stuff in it. Like the shooting feels okay. Um, but there just seems like there's no reason to do much
Yeah.
more of it, and that's a bummer.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny, a lot of these first entries into a game, you think, oh, they're just getting the engine ready and the
Yeah.
next game will have more content. And this one, it's the same engine. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know, maybe they've built themselves some shortcuts by having this made, but like,
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
mean, if they bring out, like, if this is just their games for the rest of eternity, like, they are already overshadowed in so many like weird minor immersion things.
Yeah.
Like Mass Effect 1 has a more immersive spaceship
Right.
landing
Right.
entering the place you're at like than Starfield does, which is crazy to me.
Well, I mean, you
Uh,
can also directly compare it to another RPG that came out at the same time with Baldur's Gate 3. Like,
mm,
Baldur's Gate 3 is chock full of incredibly written, really great RPG content at nearly every turn. And that's an incredibly dense and huge and long game. And then Starfield has a couple hundred empty planets. You know, like
yeah,
it kind of stinks. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
I know we're negative Nancy's, I'm sure, to the audience, but it's just our experiences.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tough one.
Yeah. So being in Neon so much just made me want to replay CyberPunk. And with them doing the DLC and the patch, I started a new character on CyberPunk. And
Yeah, I've been thinking about doing this too.
so I will now just say I wholeheartedly love CyberPunk.
Hmm.
It is it's not Deus Ex, but it is Neon from Starfield done
Right.
way better. And it's odd because like looking at the animations, they're still like a little wooden in terms of like characters,
Hmm.
but they have more movement than the Bethesda games do.
Right.
I
And
think
now,
you're
oh god.
was gonna say, I think your challenge in playing it is a game in love, like if you were a teenager in the '90s, like being offensive was just the thing to be, and this
Yep.
is very much a '90s teen game. So like
Oh,
you
sure.
get F bombs every other word, you get a lot of eh, weird nudity for no reason,
Right.
and uh, but I don't know, I love this game. So what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, like, I think, at least for me, the appeal of Cyberpunk has been there for quite a while because it feels like one of those games that kind of gets what makes Cyberpunk as a theme pretty cool. Um, but it just is a game that needed so much TLC, needed so much help
Yeah,
from like a potentially foundational level that it never really seemed like a good time to start it. But now that 2.0 is out and they've done so much work to it, and they've seems like they've fixed a lot, or kind of at least addressed a majority of the real big issues that this game has. It seems like it's a really great game, and I, as much as I've been disappointed with Starfield, everybody's like, "Yeah, Cyberpunk's really great now, man." It's like, "Yeah, maybe
it's
I should start Cyberpunk."
man, I think you'd probably enjoy it.
Yeah.
So long as like all the offensiveness doesn't put you off. But like
Mhm.
it's so my original playthrough like years ago, like I don't remember a lot of the story elements, but I do remember like every play state session I would do that was like 4 hours, I'd have 2 to 3 crashes. Like I
Oh, sure.
that game would crash like once an hour. There were just
Hmm.
constant weird issues. This new version is not perfect, but I'm 25 hours in and I've only had one crash to desktop, so to speak. I'm
Nice.
playing it on PS5 though. Um, Probably the weirdest thing I've encountered is occasionally I will enter an area and there will be one style of object in that area where the texture didn't load properly and it starts cycling through textures very quickly.
Right.
Um, so if you are epileptic, don't play this game.
Right.
uh, or I mean, honestly, like if you have any issues with like flashing lights, this is probably not the game for you.
Right.
Like even if it just gives you migraines, because you're going to get a migraine. But it's gosh, they completely redid the skill tree. Like when I heard they redid the skill tree, I thought, oh, they probably just rearranged it and add some new stuff. And like, no, they
Right.
rethought it from the ground up.
That's
Like
cool.
there's like gosh, so I kind of did similar to my first playthroughs. I made another hacker, which I
Mm.
kind of wish I didn't at this point because they made so many freaking cool combat skills that are just about looking freaking awesome in combat, you know.
Right.
And I've taken a couple of them because you level up faster and you get a lot more skill points. It seems like than
Mm.
previously. But so like the hacker set now has this. Oh, like I recently got a skill. It's like a third tier skill that you unlock called Overload. That like you basically just tack on different skills to Overload, and whenever you activate Overload mode, you can get things like, oh, you auto regenerate a certain amount of health when it starts, and your RAM, which RAM is your resource you use when you use your hacking programs.
Mm.
Um, your RAM regenerates faster, and there's all lots of sorts of perks that you can tack on to that ultimate skill activation type thing.
Interesting.
Um, and they have stuff like uh, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the way the skill tree works is you have 6 stats. You have a skill tree for each stat.
Oh, okay.
And the stats are what locks off sections of the skill tree. So your first, I think it's 6 points will access the lower level. Then it's you got to get up to 15 points, and that'll access the second tier.
Gotcha.
Well, that's not quite right. There are 4 tiers, but anyway, it divides out. You get the picture.
Hmm.
On top of that, your stats all have other things in game that they affect aside from the skills. So, like your security skill will give you. Gosh, is it a security skill? I think it's security. I may just think of it as security. Um, but that skill has its own skill trees. Like they have a weapon in there. They have I don't think that's where sneaking is. I think sneaking is under cool. But the more you increase security, the more difficult locks on doors you can unlock.
Oh, okay.
Um, but alternatively, like if you just jack up your strength skill a lot, like you can just bust open doors.
Oh, okay.
So they have lots of cool things like that, and the background you choose at the beginning like gives you a lot of conversational options, which
I
I
love
know were
that.
in the first game. I don't remember them too much, but I did Nomad this round, and the first game I did like Street Kid, and I think that gave me some background with your friend at the beginning, Jackie.
Mm,
But I didn't have that background this time, and this time I have all these extra Nomad dialogue choices that are cool.
that's cool.
The gosh, like the combat feels super good, and I don't. There are not too many things I'm save scumming in this game either, because I feel like something interesting happens whether I successfully sneak in or murder everyone. And I've been leaning on murdering everyone because it can be fun. Like you get awarded too. Like they have I think it's the shinobi. Like okay, so you had your skill tree over there, and then they have another skill list that is like 5 skills that are all based on in-game actions, and every 5 levels of those it'll give you something like +1 ram, or have another skill perk point to spend,
Oh,
and they're all
okay.
based on like shinobi is you're going to bum rush the dudes and hit them with a sword or a knife or something.
All right.
um,
That's cool.
and gosh, they fill out so many of these skill sets, like especially with the sword stuff, because now you can knock bullets out of the air if you take a certain skill set, and they
Oh,
have a
wow.
bunch of cool like dodging mechanics, and then they have a mechanic where when you first run in, like you'll negate a certain amount of damage, or at least you have a chance to. And it all feels really good in game, and a lot of the previous pain points in the game are easier to overcome now because they've rethought so many of these systems.
Mm.
But so this time in, I rolled up a female. I should have looked more into the creator in terms of like I don't know how they handle pronouns in it, but I know at the beginning it doesn't ask you male or female. You just choose a male or female voice. You
Oh, okay.
choose what gender parts you want, and you move on with your life.
That's nice.
So I assume it probably just uses the pronoun of the voice, but I don't know.
Yeah.
They may have something in there I just glazed over, but um, gosh, this it's just a really freaking cool game. If you like
Yeah.
Neon and Starfield, I feel like you're gonna love CyberPunk.
Yeah.
Because it is all this stuff, and I think Keanu Reeves does a fantastic job, and I feel like his character is still a giant jerk in this playthrough, but I feel like he's less of a jerk. And
Okay.
I'm not sure if they rewrote any of that or if it's just the dialogue choices I'm choosing. Because I'm finding
Right, like
like,
the path you're on.
yeah, like the more I agree with him, like he's said he likes me a few times, which I don't remember him ever doing the first
Oh,
time
okay.
through.
Huh.
Uh, so it's kind of interesting in that aspect. But like, I haven't even gotten to the DLC yet either. I guess that's the other
Right.
thing. The This is not. This is also oddly enough not really a game that's meant for you to necessarily explore the city. Like you should always kind of be following up quests or things to do.
Right.
And they do have like some fun one-off gigs throughout the city. But like if you're just driving down the street, like hopefully you just like driving down the street because you're not
Not much
like
there to do otherwise.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like I could be wrong. You might find something, but this is not like this is gosh, I'm not sure what to compare it to. Um, feels more GTA than Skyrim in some ways, I guess you could say.
Gotcha. Okay.
Minus like the GTA side activities, because none of those are, you're not going to go somewhere and play poker or go to a strip club or something, you know.
Right.
Um, but this game is still really, really good. If you, for anyone who hasn't played it before, and if you intend to play the DLC, um, basically you can't finish the main quest. Like everything has to happen before the main quest ends.
Oh, okay.
Or at least that is what I assume. I think I'm pretty close to unlocking the DLC. I just keep doing extra stuff, and I keep going like, I didn't do all the cyber psychos last time because there's like 20 cyber psychos or 18 cyber psychos throughout the city that this one quest giver gives you, and they're all like super tragic stories, but you're only going to know those stories if you investigate the site before or after you defeat the cyber psycho and read the different text things on it, because it's all about I guess I could explain what a cyber psycho is, right? So when you get too many cybernetic implants, there's a chance in this cyberpunk world that you will just go crazy and start murdering everyone.
Oh, okay.
And they don't know why, and they call them cyber psychos. So your quest giver in this, like, it's literally just, here's 18 points on the map with someone to defeat.
Oh, okay.
Get to it. And they're all really tragic stories that range everywhere from, like, just a regular middle-aged person who got too much stuff and something horrible happened to them, to this gang is into blood rituals. That this was a long
There you go.
like this was going to happen anyway.
Right.
So they have a lot of interesting things there, and I think while they do have a lot of comedy around things, I feel like the cyber psycho stuff has less comedy in it because so much of it's so tragic. But
Right.
But again, mechanically, it is go to this part of city and defeat this guy, and that's the quest. But I'm hoping there's something kind of interesting at the end, because the lady having you do them, like, she wants you to not kill them because they want to study them to see if they make them better. But you kind of learn pretty quickly that no one is doing anything good in Cyberpunk. Everyone is some level of jerks, so it's there's no way. But I wouldn't be surprised if I also got to the end and nothing happens. So that's probably the most likely outcome is, hey, you got them all, good for you.
That's right. Pat on the back.
Yeah. But I enjoy this game, and I would encourage anyone playing it, consider something other than hacking, maybe. Like, the hacking stuff is very powerful and cool, but like they've made some of the combat aspects so freaking flashy. Like, I feel like there's no reason not to kind of invest in some of that.
Yeah, it's not the thing you avoid anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, pick a way that you want to open doors.
Yeah.
Like, they don't... Most buildings will have a window or something that you can break through or jump up to the roof and go down. Like, if you can't have a door you can't bypass, but, having a good strength skill or security skill, I think would be wise.
Right.
Strength, security, or hacking. Although you can't hack all doors, but... Anyway, I really look forward to finding the DLC. Gosh, that's the other thing I really like about this game is I'm 25 hours in. I probably, like, if I wanted to beat the main quest, I could probably put in another 3 hours and go find the main quest line and bust out the last, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 missions I might have on it, if that. Like, I like that it is concise, and I like that, like, this is not it's not a Skyrim situation where you have 5,000 clans. It's a much more focused experience. So, let's see. Oh, I guess I could give one last piece of advice is some of the quests will give you vehicles. So the first few you start out with aren't great. And there is a guy who emails you about vehicles for sale. And if you do quests for him, I'm pretty sure you can do quests for him. At some point, he will be like, thanks for all those quests. Here are the coordinates of basically the fastest car in the game for free. So,
Oh wow. Okay.
like, sure, if you want their Akira bike clone, you gotta go buy that, but
Right.
that's not that big a deal. But I guess what I'm trying to say is don't waste a bunch of money on vehicles. You're gonna get, at least 4 or 5 of them through the quest line.
Right.
So, but I think you would enjoy it, Boston. It is not a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination, but
Sure.
it is I have been having a blast going back through it again, like way more than I thought I would.
Right.
I remember it being good, and like right now, it's like I don't know, man. This is kind of great.
Yeah.
Like I can see myself like you get 3 background choices at the beginning: Corpo, Nomad, and Street Kid, and now I'm like, what would V be like if he had a Corpo background?
Right.
Like, would he have all these like weird uppity expectations through the game of,
Yeah. Exactly.
gosh, where's my shower? Like, would this
That's right.
be like a Johnny Mnemonic situation with
Right.
Keanu Reeves yelling, "Where I want room service"?
That's right. That's
Uh,
right.
Sorry, that's my favorite moment in that movie.
Yeah.
Aside from Henry Rollins and the Dolphin, but it's a bad good movie. Anyway,
Yeah.
that is all I've been playing. So, what else you got, Boston?
All right. I got 2 quick games here. First up is Eternight. Sorry, Eternights. That's all one word here. If you haven't seen this, this is a single developer played Persona and said, "I'm gonna make me one of those." And you know what? He made a Persona 3. Specifically 3 in a very interesting sort of way. It is a hack and slash action RPG that has kind of a relationship management system. Not really like a dating sim sort of thing, but more of like, we're going to be friends and we're going to explore this kind of ruined city together for supplies and stuff. I say it's Persona 3 specifically because when you go into, and this is a very hard lesson to learn, and it seems like everybody learns it in the same way at the beginning, where you kind of start going into the first dungeon, you're fighting a bunch of stuff, you take some damage, and your party member heals you, and then you realize, oh, I'm out of SP, how do I refill that? You don't. You have to go out of the dungeon and go rest for the night. And that's how your SP refills. And it's like, oh, right. Persona 3. Yeah. So it's not a super hard game. You're doing a lot of hack and slashing. You're doing a lot of like, you dodge at the last second and the bullet time activates and, the enemies slow down and you do a bunch of extra damage and stuff like that. So it kind of has those hallmarks, but if you play really well, you get through the dungeon pretty quickly and everything, goes normally. If you play pretty poorly, the game isn't really going to punish you, but you're gonna go through the dungeon quite a bit slower. The story so far is pretty solid. There's actually in the intro, there's a lot of fully animated cutscenes that look really good. This game, a lot of it has kind of a meager budget in a way that makes sense. It's just one person making it. Excuse me. But I'm actually enjoying a lot of this so far. I've gotten through, I'm in Act 3, I think, and there's 5 or 6 acts, I believe. And Act 2 was largely just the first dungeon and then kind of fighting the boss and getting through the post-dungeon stuff and then the pre-next dungeon stuff. And then by the time Act 3 starts, you're in the second dungeon. I think the one thing I would recommend to people is check out some gameplay of this. Don't look at screenshots because it's very anime, and I think in stills it kind of looks a little odd, but I think in motion it's like, oh yeah, there's like anime expressions and stuff. And the voice acting is really good in this, which is not a thing that I was necessarily expecting out of something that is kind of a smaller experience. I think, if I remember correctly, it's only $30 too, so it's not a full price game. But I haven't played this in maybe about a week or two, but I'm really enjoying this so far. I picked it up because I like the idea of a single developer making a Persona. That sounds like it seems like an impossible challenge. But he's done it, and it's really good. I'm really genuinely, happily pleased and surprised with it. And I think if you're looking for not necessarily like a B game, but something that is an interesting kind of take on a sort of subgenre that we really like. If you like a Persona, I feel like you'll probably like what Eternights has going for it. So, not a ton to talk about on that. It seems like it's actually a fairly short experience, because I think How Long to Beat says it's maybe less than 10 hours. So it certainly feels like that getting into it. It's kind of a very streamlined sort of thing. Like, to give it an impression of maybe how unlike Persona this is, if you played Persona 4, the intro to that game is impossibly long, and it's a lot of like, I don't really know who this guy in a bear suit is. Let's spend 5 hours talking about it. But I love Persona 4, to be clear, but it is glacial. Part of the intro of this game is one of your party members, Yuna, is like this internationally known pop star. And when you run into her after there's an evacuation procedure going on, you run into her and she's wearing sunglasses and a full face mask and stuff. And immediately one of your party members is like, oh my God, that's Yuna. And she's like, I didn't think you guys had figured it out. Like, there's no, like, of course everybody's going to know who she is. She's like the biggest celebrity in the world. And it's not, 5 more hours of like, my goodness, she looks so familiar. That couldn't possibly be Yuna. And it's like, no, man, you know it's Yuna. She's huge. You got her in your party. So it's kind of refreshing to see this, someone kind of having fun with the genre, but also kind of respecting her time and being like, yeah, of course it's Yuna. Come on, let's keep motoring. So, Eternights
really
so far.
Sold me on this game.
Yeah, like it's cool. It's a cool thing. It has some rough edges. I like these kind of B games a lot. This isn't a AAA game. This isn't like the best looking, best playing video game you've ever played, but it's cool. We don't get any, Persona likes. Just the idea that someone successfully made one of those and it's fun and it's good to play. Like, I think that's super cool.
A Persona type game I can beat in under 20 hours that will cost
Right.
me $30. Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty. Next opening in my gaming schedule, this will probably go in it.
Yeah. So the only thing is I don't know how it runs. I think it's on PC. I don't know how it runs on Steam Deck, but if anyone has a Steam Deck, you can check that out. I'm playing on PS5, and it runs just fine. I really have no complaints about any of it.
Does it feel like it'd be a good sit on the couch and play it on a handheld game?
Probably, I think, because it seems like it's pretty readable. Because like, if you're watching any of the footage here, anytime there's an attack that an enemy's going to hit you with, it kind of flashes a bright red. At that point, you just kind of dive out of the way and you're good. So, yeah, Eternights is cool. I'm glad I gave it a shot, because Sony was promoting it pretty heavily early on when they announced it, saying like it's a dungeon crawling hack and slash dating sim at the end of the world. And it's like, yeah, man, all right, yep, sounds like a game I should try. That sounds like a cool combination. And so far, yeah, it's pretty cool. I like it. I like it quite a bit. So that's Eternights. Go check it out. My last game here is Chaos Head Noah. If you're a new listener to Picking Up the Pixels, number one, welcome. But number two, every once in a while we talk about sort of RPG adjacent stuff. And sometimes we'll talk about visual novels. And I'm a big fan of the science adventure series of visual novels by Mages. To give a quick background on this, I have played Steins Gate 0, and Chaos Child. And those were the 3 games that were available in English as I was playing them. Excuse me. There's something in my throat. Sheesh. And Steins Gate is probably my favorite visual novel of all time. And that's why I was picking up Steins Gate 0, which is incredible, and Chaos Child, which is okay. And most recently, Anonymous Code came out, which is Mage's most recent visual novel. And I picked it up because, number one, I want to support them, but number two, it feels very much like an Atlas situation where it's like, hey man, came out with a physical version of this, it's probably getting exactly one print run that is going to be very small. You should probably, these are one of those games that you genuinely should pre-order because they're probably going to make that many and then be done. So I picked that up and I stumbled on a review of Anonymous Code before I started it. And one of the things they said was, it's not super important, but if you have played some of the other science adventure visual novels, this kind of wraps up all of them at the same time. So you can go and play that one first if you really want, but you're going to miss out on a bunch of stuff along the way that you might not get otherwise if you're just hopping to that one. So, like, I haven't played Robotics Notes, I haven't played Robotics Notes Dash, and that's what led me down the road of playing Chaos Head Noah. That's the very first game that they released in the series, and it's out on Steam and Switch. And I said, all right, let me go all the way back to the beginning. This is the game before Steins Gate. I'll start there, and we'll start playing it. Fired it up on my Switch and started playing it, and I led myself down a surprisingly massive rabbit hole about the translation difficulties in this entire series. Because in Chaos Child, which is kind of a sequel to this game, I don't think this is a spoiler because it happens at the beginning of Chaos Head Noah. There's a line that's sort of famous in these games that says, "Whose eyes are those eyes?" And it's this kind of through line for especially this game. That line happens within 10-15 minutes of this game, and they mistranslate it. And I was like, that seems strange for basically one of the most important lines in this game. So I Googled it, and I found that there's a group of translators called Committee of Zero who has been releasing patches for the science adventure games to kind of bring them all in line with each other. Because there's different ways to translate all this stuff. You know, if you've played JRPGs at any point, you know that there's a million different ways to translate a million different things. So they started putting out patches for things like Steins Gate, where it's like, well, this should be called a different thing because then it brings it in line with them referencing it in another game, kind of aligning all that stuff together. And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool, and like fixing grammatical issues and stuff like that. And I was like, well, that's pretty interesting. Oh, they have one for Chaos Head Noah. Let's take a look at that and see how big that is. They just retranslated the entire game. They were like, there were so many sort of foundational issues with this. And one of the 3 screenshots of, the before and after comparison is that line, the whose eyes are these eyes thing. And I was like, okay, now I see what led me to this. So that led me down the rabbit hole of, all right, I'm going to buy this on Steam now because it's only like $25. And then I'm going to patch this with their translation, which was really easy. It took, I don't know, maybe 2 minutes total. They just have an exe and you run it and then it just patches the whole thing. And then I'm going to run it through my Steam link to my downstairs TV, so then I can play it on the couch, because it's going to be, a 40, 50 hour reading experience using, because visual novels, for anyone who hasn't played any, it's just reading, just a book with pictures, essentially. So I'm going to sit on the couch and I'm going to do that instead of sitting in my computer chair. So that was kind of a fun experience going down that rabbit hole of that, and then realizing that the next game after this is Robotics Notes, which they have another big patch for, where they have rewritten a third of the game by their estimation and retranslated that to line that up with all the other stuff. But the good news is they've kind of fixed up all this stuff along the way at the end. And I was really bummed because I bought the PS5 version of Anonymous Code, which is the most recent one. And they actually said the translation for Anonymous Code is good. You can play the regular one out of the box, and that won't be a problem. I was like, okay. All right. So I just got to get through like 160 hours of other visual novels here to get to this other game. So all that stuff aside, I'm enjoying this quite a bit so far. I think the main character is a scumbag in a way that I hope gets turned around pretty quickly, but I'm worried that it won't. And they actually get to the mystery pretty fast. I think one of the complaints, I didn't mind it so much in Steins Gate, but it has a very, very long intro before you kind of get to the thing. And I think within the first maybe hour or two of this game, you're kind of into this kind of gruesome string of murders around Shibuya that you are kind of getting pulled into. And someone very early in the game kind of sends you a photo of one of these murders, and then you realize it doesn't happen until the very next day when you stumble upon it. So they're kind of sending you photos of the actual murder that hasn't even happened yet. So really curious to see where this is going to go. I'm already seeing stuff that was referenced quite a bit in Chaos Child, which is thematically similar. But so far so good. I like visual novels a lot, so I'm more than happy to be like 40 hours. Heck yeah. Let's sit on the couch and read a good visual novel. Voice acting seems good. Music seems kind of sparse so far, but this is their first game, so I guess that's not too surprising. But yeah, Chaos. Welcome to the only podcast talking about Chaos Had Noah on the internet at all. But yeah, this so far this seems really good. and I'm enjoying it quite a bit, and I'm really excited to. Now they have like the Steam link all set up, and I have the patch all set. I'm really excited to kind of dive deep into this and really make some progress, and hopefully it continues to be really good. I don't have huge expectations for this because it is their first visual novel, and I'm expecting it to be kind of a rougher experience than some of the future stuff I've played. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But Cass had Noah, so far so good. But, with the Committee of Zero patch, of course. So, all right, let's move into, where are the show notes here? Here they are. Moving into show notes here. Let's talk about our releases for RPG releases for October 2023. There it is. Starting off with out now, Disgaea 7 Vows of the Virtueless. PS4, PS5, Switch, and PC. I've really enjoyed reading reviews of this game because it boils down to it's still the same game. It just has a 7 on it now. So, like, if you like Disgaea, it's another 100 hours of that. If you don't, I don't think it's gonna reinvent itself to the point where you might want to play it. So, seems pretty cool. The Nimp over at TVGP usually plays these, so kind of looking forward to his review when he comes back from vacation in a couple weeks, so check that out over there. Next up, Front Mission 2 Remake comes out on the Switch. It's out on October 5th, which is now. Quick note that this is a different company that did a remake on this than the first game's remake.
Huh.
So that's either a good or a bad thing, depending on how much you liked or didn't like that first one. But this one looks pretty good too. I think my warning to you, the listener, still stands from the first one. These are difficult games. They are going to kick you in the teeth with their robot feet, and they're not going to be cruel about it, but the game is not going to treat you lightly. It's not going to take it easy on you. So I think they're rewarding. I think they're still really cool games, but just go in knowing that they are a difficult experience. Next up here, Wargroove 2 comes out on the Switch and PC. Oh, it's out now on October 5th. If you haven't... Oh, this is the wrong window. Hold on. If you haven't seen these before, this is the kind of cute Advance Wars game. The first one came out on Xbox and PC originally, and then came out on Switch and other platforms later. I liked the first one, but it kind of suffered from the same thing that I run into with all these games, which is like, I have a hard mission, I try it maybe 2 or 3 times, and if I don't beat it, I just throw up my hands and uninstall the game. So that happened to me with the first Wargroove. Hopefully this maybe will have a bit of a smoother difficulty curve this time, but if you're looking for something like this, and maybe you've already played that Symphony of War game already that Musum has been playing, maybe check out Wargroove 2. It looks cool. It's like a cool kind of experience. Next game is Borderlands 3, comes out on the Switch. That's out now. I would probably recommend maybe finding another platform to play Borderlands 3 on that maybe you own. Looks like it works fine, but that seems like kind of a big ask for the Switch. So
yeah,
maybe
they sent me that email. I'm like, I'm done with Borderlands, but
right.
If I were to play 3, I cannot imagine the Switch handling that well.
No. Yeah. Next game here, Honkai Star Rail, comes out on the PlayStation 5 on October 11th. This is MiHoYo's next or current big game, I guess. They're the developers of like Third Impact and Genshin Impact and stuff like that. Third Impact is Evangelion. Sorry, whatever their other Impact game was. But I played this a bunch on iOS, and then kind of it started doing the gotcha thing, and I kind of tapped out pretty immediately when I saw it was going to do the exact same MiHoYo gotcha thing. It is a turn-based RPG, so you know it had kind of a cool battle system, but you know it's the kind of not grubby, but kind of borderline greedy gotcha game that they make. So you know, be careful, I guess. So even though it's kind of cool, you know, it's still out for your money at the end of the day.
Oh yeah.
Next game here, Lords of the Fallen. You might remember there was already a game called Lords of the Fallen. Now there's a second one with the exact same name. They were originally going to call this The Lords of the Fallen, and then they just dropped it for I don't know what reason. But this is essentially go ahead.
Are these two just like, is this the same series?
Yeah, it's a sequel with the same name. They're not. It's not even like a remake, which, you know, we've seen that a little bit. But yeah, it's a sequel with the same name. It's very odd. It is a Souls-like, kind of a Soulsborne type of thing. That kind of deliberate combat, that third-person hack and slash sort of thing. I remember people kind of liking the first one. If you're looking for your kind of fix there, I think it was pretty popular before there were a bunch of other Soulsborne games out. But so far, this one looks pretty cool. A lot of people seem to be really excited for this one to come out. So we'll see how that reviews. But that's Lords of the Fallen 2023, I guess, technically. And then Star Ocean, the Second Story R, comes out on PS4, PS5, Switch, and PC on November 2nd. This is a full remake of the second Star Ocean game, which I know is very beloved, and I unfortunately have never played it. But they kind of went all out on this game. If I remember correctly, there's a demo out right now, and I think your progress carries over into the final game, but don't quote me on that. But this is probably, I think this is what, like the third remake we've gotten of Star Ocean 2, I think, because there's the well-received PSP one as well.
Yeah.
But this one is pretty cool looking and seems pretty significantly different from the previous version of it. So
yeah,
looks cool.
And this is like supposed to be the best Star Ocean game in the series, right? Like,
yeah, that's what I kind of always hear is like, yeah, 1 and 2, those two are the real good ones, and then you might like the other ones, but they're kind of uneven. Yeah. I think.
Well, and I was talking with a friend about this, who this was a real beloved game for him back in the day, the second one, and I was kind of poo-pooing because I remember, I mean, it's a decade ago now, so how well do I really remember? But I played through the first one on PSP, and the combat system in it was so absurdly basic and boring. I did not enjoy it, but it sounds like the second one, I don't know if it's the combat that's improved or if there's just more story branching options, but it has more to it, I think, than the first one.
It's got more stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's coming out there, and that'll be coming out before our next episode here. I do want to mention one quick news story here because I forgot to write it down, but Vanillaware announced a new game at like one of the Nintendo things is called Unicorn Overlord, which is an incredible title, and then they're just making a ogre battle. They just said, hey, there hasn't been an ogre battle, not ogre tactics, but ogre battle in a while. We're just going to go make one. So for anyone that maybe doesn't know what an ogre battle is, essentially kind of like multiple units of kind of your soldiers, I guess, that has multiple soldiers in each unit. So it's like you have one little group of people. It looks like one unit, but there's maybe 5 or 6 individual troops in that one thing. And then when you fight with the other enemies, it almost looks like Shining Force, where it's this kind of like side by side, two groups fighting each other, sort of thing. So it looks wild. I'm always happy that Vanillaware is making another thing, and shockingly, this is the game after 13 Sentinels. Is hey, we're gonna make a real kind of classic thing here, and we're gonna call it Unicorn Overlord. So God bless you, Vanillaware.
Yeah. I love how they just always do something completely different than the last thing. Like,
yep.
I feel like the closest you could draw a line would be like, well, Muramasa the Demon Blade is probably similar to that other game that I forgot the name of that they did before that.
Oh,
like,
Demon's Crown? Is there something Crown? Dragon's Crown. There it is.
Dragon's Crown. Oh yeah, I bet. Okay, well maybe I'm a liar because we have those two, and then we have the PS2 one that I don't remember the name of.
Oh yeah, I really liked that one. What was that? They made Grimoire, which is that side-scrolling RTS game, and then they made it's the one that was Wagner's Ring, that like opera song. They made that into a game. I think that's the one you're thinking of, where you grow like sheep plants and stuff.
Yeah, like.
What is that one called?
It bothers me so much I can't remember the name. It's the one that put them on the map too. But you had the different characters. Yeah, totally. They did have that orchestra piece like all throughout.
Odin Sphere. Odin
Sphere.
That's the one that's based on Wagner's Ring cycle, the like operatic thing.
So.
Yeah, really, just a real wild thing. I know that's coming out on PlayStation platforms as well. I don't know if it's coming out on Xbox platforms. I mean, they're Japanese companies, so I can sort of assume no, unfortunately. But yeah, as soon as I can pre-order Unicorn Overlord, I am definitely going to be doing that.
You can do it right now.
Okay, perfect. Well,
you can do the physical editions right now. I've not checked.
After we're done with this, I'm gonna go pre-order that, because that is man, that's gonna be great. Love it. So that's all of our news stories and releases, which means we're at the end of our episode. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. You can visit us at pickingthepixels.com. Everywhere to find and follow us is on the right hand side of the page. Musim, where can we find you online?
You can find all my relevant links on my link tree, linktr.ee/John Musim, JOHNMUSIM.
You can find all my shows e1m1.com. You want to find all my personal links, that's over at campsite.bio/Jansten, JANSTEN. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.